So I think hey Raman, how are you?
Hi, Raman.
Okay, I think Dr. Tapesh already gave everyone a little bit of an introduction. As we promised you guys 2 weeks ago, we have a very special guest with us today, and we tried to keep that as a surprise for quite a bit of time. But you got the information that Dr. Higjasa Sharma is going to be with us today, and we are very pleased about it. Um, Okay, for the people that are joining, can you please mute yourselves? So that way we don't have any background noises in there. So that will be
Thanks so
amazing.
much.
Thank you so much. Tush, if you can just mute yourself, that will be awesome as well. Thank you. Yeah, lovely. Thank you so much for that. Or maybe if Dr. Dapesh or Kanika can mute people since they are the hosts of the meeting, that will be lovely. So we don't have any background noises in here. Yeah, amazing. Hello, Jenny. How are you? Okay, guys, and as I was saying to you guys, basically, Dr. Hijasa is going to be with us today. And I think a lot of you guys already know Dr. Hijasa, and Rara and we were quite lucky to have her as our mentor for our part one.
Yeah, definitely.
So we are very happy to be collaborating with her during this time. I know that the written examination is coming next week for the people that couldn't see the exam in March. So I think that explains a little bit why we have taken a break from the old TG, new TG episodes, because we couldn't just let pass this opportunity of give you some tips for the people that are sitting the exam, and also for the people in the future that are going to see the part one. So that's basically why we have interrupted our new TG, old TG episodes. But they will continue because our aim is to finish the entire revision of those TG for you to have more information as well. So Dr. Hijasa basically have been mentoring people for the last 3 years. She has been creating this amazing mentoring program. I think as per today, around 1,000 people have been mentored by Hijasa. So that's quite a lot of people. And as a part of that experience with her, I think I highly recommend her, because I think we gain a lot of knowledge, or I gain a lot of knowledge back then when I was doing my mentoring with Hijasa. So I think, what else can we say about her, Rada?
Apart from she has a beautiful soul, she is a great mentor.
Yeah.
I learned a lot, and she's not only just lecturing. She develops and pushes you to develop a critical thinking, which is something that is a must, especially for part two. But for part one, as you know, you have the SPQs, which not only require you to learn by heart, but to think. And this, I found it fantastic. She gives a lot of her time and energy to search in not, she doesn't give you like answers from her mind, like from nowhere. It's science based. She look into journals, to the real evidence to provide you the best answer. And she puts a lot of effort, and she's passionate about what she's doing.
Yes, definitely. Completely agreeing with that. And basically, the relationship between Winspert with Higjasa's part one mentoring program and Dental101 has come to fruition because we share a lot of values, regarding how to help candidates. So you will see that a lot of things that Hijasa is going to tell to you guys today are quite synchronized with the things that we also tell to you guys, because whether you think it or not, part one and part two are not completely fragmented. They are quite together, and that's another thing that we will touch in on today. So I think without further ado, we can introduce Hikjasa and start to chat with her. So Hikjasa, hello, how are you?
Hey, welcome Hikjasa to our show.
Hi Radha, hi Lina.
Hi.
Hi Kanika.
So nice to see you after
Same here. So lovely to see
so
you
many
ladies.
years.
Yes, so many years. 2 years, right?
2 years has passed. Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah.
And
hi everyone.
we passed and we're working in Australia 2 years after.
Yes. And I really cannot forget the times, Radha and Lina, how you guys were preparing, how diligent you both were. And I know both of you cleared your exams, part one and part two, in the first attempt. And that's a huge, huge achievement. So everyone who's joining us here should know that it's doable, and you two women have done it. And Radha, I know your story. I mean, you had a baby and you did what not you did for your family, and I've been through in your journey. And so it's an example that, you know, we can achieve what we set our mind and heart to, and it's all doable. You just need to be very, very sincere.
Yes.
So yes,
Definitely.
you guys,
Authentic.
both of you are an example that it's achievable. You know, it's an achievable dream.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. And you passed your part one with flying colors. I do remember that. That's an amazing achievement as well. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And it's great to see you guys. I mean, mentoring for part two. I mean, who knew? So beautiful. I mean, Kanika and Deepesh are such amazing mentors themselves, and you joining their team. I think it's one of the best steps towards your future. I think, yeah. You guys are great source of inspiration.
Yes.
So congratulations, you guys, for a great team up, and I'm so glad that we can kind of come together and, you know, project our values. It is not something that, you know, you do for commercial, but rather people coming together for values is a greater thing. I would say Radha and me are like, we are soul sisters. So
definitely.
Sister from another mister. Yeah. So
amazing. And I think a lot of people are going to be benefit from what we are going to talk today. And ultimately, this is our goal. You know, Dental 101's goal and Winsper goal is to try to benefit people from genuine and help. And that's what we're trying to do every day, despite the technical problems and the internet issues. We try to be here for you guys. And I think
in the hindsight, it all becomes trivial when you what you talk about. It's so meaningful. Everything else becomes so trivial that the word and the message is so powerful and strong. So
yeah. Definitely.
So I think it's a great learning curve today for everyone who's going. Yeah.
And a very steep one as well.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
I'll sign myself. I mean, I'll just stop my video because I have to just coordinate. I've been getting a lot of messages from here and there, so I'll let you guys and wish you good luck. You guys, as always.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. So basically, obviously, questions are a must during this session. We would like you to participate as much as possible. I think Hikjasa is kind of the star today, so she will try to take on board all the questions. We will try to moderate a little bit. In the meantime, when you are joining the call, please mute yourself so we don't have any background noises. That will be awesome. That reminds me of Hikjasa sessions as well. It was a constant struggle to keep people muted.
Yeah.
Now I understand why. And basically, Hikjasa, Radha and I, would like to start with some questions, you know, because we didn't have this opportunity when we were preparing. So basically, we want to ask things that we think are relevant for the candidates that are going to have the part one examination. So I think the most common question that I get asked every single time from people that want to do the process is, obviously you need to start with the initial assessment. That's another topic. Once you have already finalized that step, then you need to face the fact that you need to prepare for part 1. So the most common question is, how much anticipation do we need to have in order to prepare for part 1?
Okay, so it's a very relative question, Lena. You know that how much time you would require or how much time you can anticipate, because ultimately it would boil down to how much time every day you're putting in, right? I mean,
Yep.
I've had I'll just give an example that I've had students who were willing to give about 6 to 8 hours a day, and then there were some who would be not able to go more than 2 to 3 hours a day.
Yep.
So it does become relative with the amount of time you put in every day, because then that would multiply. And so I would say you can prepare in, say, about 5 to 6 months also, if you give good 4 or 5 hours a day. And it can also go up to 10 months or a year, like if you are doing only 2 hours or 3 hours a day. If you are like really caught up with other responsibilities as well, if you're like a working person, or if you have kids to look after, or you have home to look after, so, and you can only contribute 2 hours from your routine, so I would say it can take about 10 months also. So it totally depends upon how much every day. And when I say every day, it has to be a consistently put everyday hours. You cannot have 4 or 5 hours a day and then rest of the week you are not doing anything. So when we talk about preparation of ADC part 1, one thing that comes out very evidently is that you have to be consistent. Consistency to a committed routine. You know how emphasizing I've been also in our program. Yes. Consistency is the key. You cannot escape that. I mean, I'm not putting it as a struggling hard work, but consistency where you're happily and in a calm manner still doing it and achieving it. So you don't have to slog yourself, but be consistent with your commitments.
Perfect. No, that's amazing. I think from my experience, I can relate to that. I think I started the preparation like 6 months previous to the exam, trying to be part of the schedule that you provide for us when we were taking the program and everything. So, and I think Radha, it was pretty much the same time, right?
Yes. So I started 6 months approximately before. Meanwhile, I was pregnant. I had my son. I was moving to Australia at the same time. So lots of
changes
in my life. I gave birth just before the exam. So for me, I thought I would rather take my time, start from, earlier, and then,
Yeah, well, so, I mean, probably I wouldn't recommend Radha's journey. Please don't get pregnant. Please don't have the baby just before the exam. But I don't think that's healthy for your mind. But definitely,
you can do it. Look,
it's an example.
But still, you can do it. I mean,
there's no barriers. It's only your mind what you can achieve or not. So I will say that definitely that's a. I mean, let me tell you, Radha. I don't know how you did it. Admiration. But yeah, pretty much that amount of time will be safe if you are committed to spend enough time, every day with your studies. So another question, what do you think, Radha? What could be another relevant question?
So in the ADC website, we see a lot of material to read. Each topic has like a list like that for books and journals and stuff. We'd like you to tell us a bit more about the material that we really need.
Yeah. All right. So yes, the reference list is there for a reason, right? I mean, it's so that anything and anywhere you get stuck, you have the books which ADC recommends. And if you're stuck between few concepts, you can actually go to those books and confirm and then be validated that because it's a recommended book. So what evidence I draw from here would be valid for the exam, right? So you cannot completely shun the reference books and be scared that, oh, it's a huge list, I cannot read it. Nobody wants you to read it entirely. Nobody wants. It's there for a purpose where you get stuck. And in fact, it's a blessing that it's there and you get stuck and you have a validated evidence, right?
Yeah.
So let's use it only for that.
Oh, okay.
And
Got it.
yeah, because you are not taking a postgraduate exam. You are not going a specialization exam. You are going in for a general dental exam, which you already are. You are either a specialist in your country or you're a general dentist, right? So you already are equipped with knowledge. You have done and taken exams for all those books in your undergrad years. Now the ADC wants to judge you on the fact that, are you a good enough general dentist to practice here? And are you in your mind when you're looking at a patient, and you're not overlooking the facts, and you're not overlooking the medical history or their dental history, right? So preparing to ADC for part 1 is very specific. You have to be really, really specific. You have to have core knowledge of each subject, but not to a literal extent, not to a complete textbook extent. It has to be very clinically oriented. And that again is linked with your clinical part 2 exam as well. I mean, if you don't prepare clinically oriented part 1, you would also slog with your part 2 OSCE preparation, which also derives all the juices from your part 1. So you have to prepare in a way, very, I would say, technical, clinical manner, where you would still require the core knowledge of the subject, but also would know how to apply that clinically. Just knowing would not be enough. Critically thinking about it and applying it in a clinical environment, right? I mean,
Yep.
just knowing amalgam and everything, every science behind it, or trituration and what trituration is, everything, you do not need to know that. But how it may give you ditching, how it may give you creep, what will add to creep, what will reduce creep, so that, you know, it doesn't fail, it doesn't give your patient a secondary caries. Imagine the biggest nightmare after a very beautifully carved amalgam would be, after a few years down the line, a ditched margin.
A ditch. Yeah.
So no matter if you get a perfectly carved, and what do you say for your part 2, a best done amalgam, if it doesn't meet the criteria of, you know, having corrosion free, being creep free, so
Yep.
clinical relevance of the core concepts, that's what the ADC boils down to. So if you want to sum it up material wise, you would have to do a very specific smart study from where to read, where not. And when I give you the last minutes tips today, I would be recommending a book, of course, which will start you on that journey of critical thinking and clinical thinking. Yeah. So
Okay, perfect. So just to summarize that amazing intervention, the reference books that we have in the handbook from ADC are reference books that you will need to use when a particular case require an extra knowledge that probably you are not getting it at the moment.
Yep.
Okay, because a lot of people think that, oh my God, I need to read all these books and I need to memorize everything that is in it, which is virtually impossible because, well, no human being can do that. So basically that's a very important point that you make there, because we need to be strategic in the books that we are going to integrate in our preparation, right?
Yes.
Yes, because I have a question from Akmal. And Akmal, hello Akmal, how are you? He's saying, what's the minimum reading or study books required? So I think, Ijasa, when you are giving the tips, probably you are being touching that subject, right?
Yeah, I will be.
Okay, perfect.
I mean, even if somebody wants to connect to me later for the list of books that I would recommend, or in fact, my own personal study plan, what I did, how I prepared for my part 1, not for my program, in fact, as a personal student, when I was taking my part 1, I'm here as an exam taker. I'm telling you that what I did, what I read, I can also share that plan with you. So it would list all the books that I did follow, how much of textbooks I read, and how much of other references I read, articles, how much I relied on each and every material. As a student, I would be answering that question. If they want, they can connect to me later also, because it's a huge document. Of course, I cannot tell what all there is in. Yeah.
That's perfect. And we also have another question of someone that I cannot see the name, but that's a question that is fair. People are asking if you have finished your entire ADC journey.
All right. So no, I have not completely, you know it, right? I mean, everyone who joins me know it, and they know the whole story.
Yeah.
So the thing is, I did my ADC part 1, and then I did not do my part 2, because then, obviously my country of interest changed, and then I did my Canadian exam, and I did clear my AFK part 1, which is AFK is like Canadian exam ADC
The equivalent to part 1, yeah.
So I cleared my AFK as well. So kind of now I have mastered the part 1 strategies all over the world. You can say that. So yeah, part 2, no, not yet. And I don't know when and how. So far it's been working out. Like part 1, I've completely mastered, and I'm really enjoying teaching the part 1, and I would eventually see how life unfolds and what step I take next. So far, that is why when they say, why don't you do the part 2 coaching? I'm like, till the time I clear the exam myself, I'm not going to teach part 2. Because that's not
definitely
fair. Unless you have experienced yourself. So you should not be out there. I mean, some people can do that without clearing part 2 also. I would say there would be some people who can still give you a lot of insights. I'm not saying you just always have to clear a part 2 to teach for part 2. But it would be better because it comes with experience. Along with you have your own teaching skills, and it comes with experience. So clearing part 2 first and then teaching for part 2 would make more sense. Yeah,
definitely.
And that is why I never venture into coaching or giving any tips. All my students, they ask me, where do we go part 2? What do we do part 2? Why don't you teach part 2, Oski? I'm like, till I clear my part 2, I'm not touching even the boundary of it. So that's sort of it.
Yeah. We can teach you when you want to. Don't worry.
Maybe when I'm taking my Oski for Canada, then you can teach me.
Okay. Thank you, Hijasa. So another question will be how to organize the time. So let's say we already know that we need 5 to 6 months. We already have those reference books and the material to study. And then how will be a good approach to organize the time?
So I do, in fact, emphasize a lot on organizing time with my students, and you both know it, right? I mean, I had personal calls, and I would know everyone's daily routine. I would know what they're doing in their day. I know who has how many kids and who has what jobs and what timings are they. So that's important. Putting everything that you do in your life is also important. The point is that you just have to balance out. I mean, as you said, Radha has done it with, what all she's done it with. And so it is manageable. It is manageable. You have to find hours, and you have to find the will, and then dedication, and then time does show up in your day. You have to just be, smart enough to catch it and utilize that opportunity and not waste it. So, but I would say organization is required. The week organizing and the day organizing, time management, that is one skill that you will have to hone. I teach my students that. I plan their day for them. But even if you're not taking any mentorship, I would say that is one skill I would highly recommend that you need to hone, and you need to really master your time. Other than that,
I also remember.
Radha, please go on.
No, sorry. I just wanted to say that I also remember that when we started with you, you provided us a roster, which was really helpful at that time to help us to structure ourselves, our time, how to organize, how to approach, and how to solve questions regarding such a topic and stuff like that. So I just wanted to share this experience, and it was really good.
And I think what Hijasa is saying is also quite coordinated with what we tell people for part 2. Organize your time, make a schedule for yourself. If you cannot practice every day, then you should have a plan, because it's not bad that you cannot practice every day. I mean, I didn't practice every day for my part 2 either, because I didn't have the time. I had to work as well. That's not the problem. The problem is that if you don't strategize your time, then the time is going to slip away from your hands, and that's when the problem comes. Because that leads me to my next subject, which is independent study, which I remember Hijasa also was very adamant back then when we were studying. If this is just not the class, you need to go on yourself, right? And study.
Totally.
So, definitely. It's always, see, with mentorship or without, we're not talking about just under the mentorship umbrella. We're gathering to the candidates, we're gathering to the audience who wants to prepare by themselves. And I totally love and respect those people. I was one of those, right? I mean, I did not, but because I had the luxury of taking out 10 hours a day for study, that is the reason I did not require one. But did I not crave for a mentorship? I did crave for one, right?
Of course.
I mean, did I not want something that would shrink my daily hours to 5 hours? And instead of me reading 10 hours, did I not want that? I did want that. Did I have that kind of mentorship at that point? No. And that's the reason I started what I started, right?
Yeah.
So so when you're preparing, there is a lot of work. One is you learn, and other is you acquire data to learn.
Yes.
Right? You're doing two things if you're preparing yourself. You're learning and you're acquiring data that you have to learn. When you get into mentorship, you just learn. The data is acquired for you. It is presented to you. So that is what. So even if you don't want a mentorship, please remember you will always be doing these two things. You will be acquiring information, gathering information, data, articles, scientific evidences, textbooks, all that filtering you will have to do. It would not come easy. But then you will also have to learn and apply it, right?
Yes, put into practice.
Yeah, it is a practice every day. And when you do enroll into a mentorship program, wherever, you would still need the data from the mentor. And you would still, mentor cannot learn for you. You have to do the learning for yourself, right? So they provide you the data, but independent study or learning part has to still go. That is a 50-50 ratio of the total preparation. So you can't take away. If you're only learning whatever the files are there and mugging up and you're not acquiring data, then also you're 50% prepared. And if you're only doing what the mentor is saying, just mugging up the answers of the acquired data and not learning to apply it, then also you're doing 50% of the job.
Yeah.
Agree.
So independent study at home, along with your live classes, along with the other studies, is really important. And that's why I gave you the number of hours that you need to put every day, or at least, weekly, daily, minimum, maximum, all that.
Okay, perfect. Amazing. You couldn't say it better. Completely agreeing with that. We said that to the candidates a lot as well. So this is the time, guys, when you can start asking questions. Just, take advantage that Higjasa is here with us, and ask away. So Irina has a question. How frequently do we need to practice for part 2 if we are doing the exam for the first time? Well, that's a tricky question, right, Rada?
Oh, yeah. It depends again.
It depends. Applies the same for part 1.
How much you're available, what's your circumstances, like do you have children to look after, do you work, I don't know. So,
what I will say, sorry, Rada, what I will say is not amount of time is insignificant. Some people think that if they don't spend 8, 9, 10 hours every single day, then it's not possible. I couldn't practice every single day, but I had 4 days where I used to be full-time dedicated to that. The rest of the days I was working. But don't think that if you can afford to spend 2 hours, that's too little. Just go and make the best of those 2 hours. It's more about that rather than the amount of time that you need to spend. That's why strategizing and organizing your time is quite important. Okay, so I'm having some hints from the boss. So I think this is the time for the last tips minute before the exam.
Yeah. All right. So we'll go with it. And I think most of us, we have already covered. I will just put it because we have only 5 to 6 days, say, for the exam, this September exam. And so I can only talk about what you can do in these last 4 or 5 days. And foremost important is that you keep a clear and calm mind. I mean, what we really fall trapped to in the last few days is anxiety and trying to do this, do that, and do every possible stuff that I can, It's like a last moment defense mechanism that suddenly takes over us. And for that, I would say it's not wrong studying everything, but keeping a clarity and calmness would go a long way. So keep a clear mind and do not try to overwhelm yourself. If you've been studying 5 hours till last 5 months for the exam, do not exceed those hours to like double, or because you cannot practically just double up, right? Maybe increase 20% or 30% or 50% of that time, because you have prepared everything. Do not think that you don't know anything. You have prepared. It's just now to organize everything. So definitely one thing which you must do for the last few days is plan your last few days. It should be well planned and organized schedule for the next upcoming days till exam. You should not leave a day on its own, that okay, I'll see what I do tomorrow, or I'll see what I do on Saturday, I'll see what I do Sunday before the exam. From today till Sunday or Monday morning rather, it should be a well planned schedule now which you're following hourly, so that you don't feel overwhelmed. Everything is planned for you and you think everything is in control. And also for mastering and for to really answer your SBQs correctly in the exam, I would say revise ODEL very diligently. It gives you all the clinical situations. There is going to be cases from all those situations only. So please try to revise and take good points from ODEL cases. It's a very good last minute tool to completely review all the concepts. I would say it's the smoothie of concepts, right? It's the superfood smoothie.
Yeah.
ODEL, you look at it. I mean, it's a superfood smoothie. It's got endo, prosto, and every discipline. Plus, even if you talk about every subject, then it has all the concepts, all the topics in those. So it would be a good revision tool. And then, yeah, focus on the past papers, previous exam questions. Do not try to do anything in this week that you have not done before. Do not try to do that, because that gets very scary. And do not fall trap peer pressure, you know? It brings in panic. So don't give in the peer pressure. Oh, did you not do this yet? Oh, that's so important. Leave that. Believe in yourself. Whatever you have studied so far is good enough. Okay? So don't give in to that pressure. Please continue to revise what you have already done, rather than falling to, oh, maybe what if I do last moment Walton, maybe what if I do last moment Jahangiri. Not done it, not done it. Solidify what you already know. Solidify what you already can define. Every source talks about similar things. Solidify what you know. It doesn't matter whether you've read 5 books. If you have read one book good enough times that it actually gives you information, all the information that you need, reading 5 books doesn't matter. Read that one book well enough and you're sorted. So don't try to do anything new this week.
That's important. You know, a lot of people are like, did you read this book? Did you see what it says about this case? It always happens like 2 days before the exam.
Yeah. True.
I just put myself in a bubble.
It's very scary. It's very scary.
Isolate yourself for the last 2 days. Don't listen to what others got to say.
I was just talking to Jigasa.
Me too. Me too.
Having Jigasa talking to me in my mind when I was solving.
Yeah. I know that now. This is Radha. This has really become a thing, you know, with my group and my students. Everyone hears my voice in the exam,
especially during exam.
And you know what, Jasa,
I remember ADC centers I'm talking via telepathy.
I remember particularly as well some advice that you gave us before the exam, and it was about aiming for the A, not aiming for the C. Because you told us that aiming for the C is a very dangerous place. Don't make your calculations based on, because we all do calculations, you know, we are like, we have this amount of questions, even though we don't know how they grade this particularly, but we all do calculations, you know. And I do remember that you told us, don't aim for C, because then you are going to fail. You need to aim for A. And if you aim for the best, you are going to pass anyway. And I do remember that I was playing in my mind the entire 2 days of my written examination. And I always thought it was a very good advice. And I also do recommend that for my ADC Part 2 candidates. We tell them that. We tell them, like, don't try to be average, because that's a very, very scary place to be. Try to be the best so you don't struggle and you're sure that you are going to pass.
Very great advice, Lena, I would say. Perfect.
Oh, it was from you.
Yeah, but you put it really nicely. You put it perfectly. Thank you so much for that.
Okay, so Akmal has another question. Do you find that Odell's useful for OSCE as well?
Now
Yeah,
you guys should answer that. Yeah.
yeah, I think
Sorry
it's a
to
good.
interrupt, guys. I'm
Okay.
gonna say bye-bye. I have to pick up my kids from school. Thank you, Jigasa, to come here in our space and share your wonderful humor and give us this atmosphere that is really nice and share with us your knowledge.
Thank you so
Bye
much.
bye,
Radha.
guys.
Bye,
Thanks
Rada.
for following.
See
Yeah,
you.
bye.
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 Okay, so for Akmal, who asked about OSCE for part two, I will say I do think the same as Hijasa. I mean, Odell is such a good book because it condenses everything in such a good manner that I will say it's not going to help you because the OSCE communication are quite different to the SBQs, but definitely when you feel stuck with some things, Odell can solve some doubts, and I think that's quite good. And Akmal is also saying high aims or great expectations lead to great frustrations. Well, Akmal, I don't know. I'm that kind of person that I like to be optimistic, to be honest. So for me, I will say great expectations can lead you to great achievements as well. I will put it that way.
Yeah, I would also answer that for you, Lena. And I
Perfect.
would say great expectations and may lead to great frustrations. I agree with that, but only when you don't have a great plan. That's all.
True. True.
If you want to keep great expectations and still do not fall for frustrations, have a great plan.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
all you need is just to be planned out. If you plan it out well, even the basic steps would start feel like fun. I mean, you know it, Lena.
Yeah,
In the classes also, I've always said, don't take it like it's something hard. You just have to take it like it's fun. You should enjoy. You should love what you do, right?
yeah,
If you're not
that's true.
loving it, it does become frustration. Even the average expectations would become frustrating if you're not having fun. And when do
That's
you
true.
have fun? You will only have fun when you're balancing everything, when you're looking after everything and you're not burning yourself. And it's a well planned day. You know what step needs to be done at what time, and it has been planned by you as per your life, as per your responsibilities. You are not when you're not trying to imitate any other person who is achieving this in 5 months, but rather you're trying to put the great expectations for you, but in the amount of time that you can achieve them. Nobody is asking you to achieve great results in 5 months. If it doesn't work for your life, plan it for 10 months,
Yeah,
right? So you don't have to just imitate someone else's achievements and someone else's plan. Create your life's plan. Create as per your life. And then you can also achieve greatness, but in your time, as per your convenience and as per your love, what you want. We feel frustrated when it's really not our dream, when we are imitating other person's dream.
completely agree.
Yeah.
I mean, so much wisdom around here. That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
So I hope that
Doctor,
really helps them, and they still expect great things. I really want people to expect great things from life and nothing less.
yeah, and Dr. Dapesh is saying great results are directly proportional to time you put in. I mean, I have to say, Rada already left, but not to fall, into compliment everyone here, but um, when you see the amount of effort that Hijasa puts in mentoring, it's so good. And when you see Dr. Depeche and the team on Dental 101, all the effort that I used to put when I was the candidate, then you know that, and they pretty much create that seed in your mind, that you need to make an effort, that you need to be committed, that you need to be disciplined, and that's how you are going to achieve what many people have achieved. Because I'm an example here, but like me, there's many examples. So it's basically achievable. So Ravinder says, when do you think ADC will start part 2 exam? Oh, well, I think you should ask them that. And probably they are very responsive when you email them. I have to say that, either for queries about part 1 or part 2, you can email ADC. And also just, keep an eye on the webpage just to see any updates, because actually no one knows. besides them. And do you guys do part 2 exam preparation or only part 1? Well, Ravinder, basically we have been focusing on part 2. That has been our strength for a lot of years now. And we wanted to bring Hijasa into this partnership because we do think that some candidates need like a complete mentoring system and program. Obviously, it's up to every candidate to choose what they like and what they want to do. But basically, Hijasa will be that part 1 that we have been needing in the team, basically. Okay, Hijasa, this one is for you, and this is from Janu. And Janu is a dentist from India, and she works with me sometimes, assisting me. And
that's great.
Yeah, she's a lovely and very kind lady. So Janu is asking, overall reading subjects-wise more will be helpful or just solving MCQs?
Okay. So actually, I would say, Janu, it has to be blend of both. You can't just be focusing on one. So you have to prepare initially subject-wise, so that to begin with, you don't get overwhelmed with all the disciplines and reading them together. So you do have to start each subject separately and then come to a point where you can learn to apply all the subject information together. Because ADC, in fact, is now giving you multidisciplinary questions. It doesn't totally focus on endo alone. It would always have a perio problem, or it would also have a need of an RPD. So you have to pick between troncobalt, acrylic, know the advantages, disadvantages of all. So subject-wise you start, and then you learn to incorporate all that you have learned subject-wise into a multidisciplinary approach. And MCQs help a great deal preparing for any concept. Yeah. So MCQs use them as a framework to prepare a concept, but do that subject-wise. And in fact, that's what we do at our program. So you know it. Yeah,
I do know it. And well, Kirti has a long question, so bear with me while I'm reading this. So it says, now that we have new articles being updated frequently, it gets challenging at the last minute what answer to choose for MCQs, where you don't want to lose marks when you could have easily scored. Should we just follow the ADC handbook resources and not update the answers according to the recent changes? I am aware that ADC will give time needed to update ourselves, but there are questions even for the current exam that look to change scenarios. I mean, how do we weigh this out correctly? Thank you for that question, Kirti.
But it's a fabulous question. I would say it's a wonderful question.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone who's going in for the exam on Monday would be in dilemma for some of the questions for this. But then, Kirti, you know that this change in concept or a last minute change would only apply to 2 to 3% questions, right? First of all, let's not think that it's a very valid point, but it also has a very small percentage of questions that it applies to. What we try to do is, when we try to emphasize on this point so much that we kind of lose out on the other 95% questions where you have the sure answers. So I would say you don't fail because you lose out on those 1 or 2, 3% questions where the answers are controversial. When people fail, they fail because they miss out on the most important core questions. Nobody, trust me, fails on these controversial questions. Nobody, Lina. It's when your core knowledge suffers, that's when we kind of lose more scores. Coming back to Kirti's question, what to do for these controversial questions. So I would say for the controversial questions, if there is a controversy and if you are comparing TG versus any recent article, right? Or if you are comparing, I would say, any other Australian recent guideline versus any other scientific article, then stick with the Australian articles, and stick with the therapeutic guidelines. So if you have scientific evidence controversies, always try to find if there is an ADJ article, Australian Dental Journal article published on that particular concept. And usually I have found, Lina, whenever there was a controversy around any of these controversial questions or some changed concepts, I would always found an Australian Dental Journal article published a year or 2 back.
Okay.
So even if textbooks talk about old concept, Australian Dental Journal does talk about a recent advancement. So don't think that Australia is not updating itself. Australian Dental Journal is updating itself. Almost every time a new study comes in, it gets updated. So if you get, so that's what I do for my students. Whenever there's a controversy like that, and we find something in a particular textbook, like a good textbook, like a Melamed, right? Regarding any medical emergency, we go to Melamed. And
Yep.
if there's something in Melamed and it is not still making sense and still feels controversial, fortunately, we will find an Australian Dental Journal article on that.
Yeah.
So if you really want to get that articles are being updated frequently, then focus yourself to Australian articles and Australian guidelines, and ADC would be following them. So you can safely update your information.
Okay. Perfect. Amazing answer. So just to summarize, Hijasa, because we named this episode Last Minute Tips for ADC Part 1, especially for the people that are sitting next week. So basically the tips are, first of all, don't try to double up your time that you are spending a study, because you only are going to burn yourself out, right? So just keeping it within reasonable boundaries, right? If you want to study a little bit more before the exam, just keep it reasonable. Also, Odell is very good just to clear any doubts regarding scenario-based questions. And what else? What else did you say about the last minute?
Organizing your days.
Organizing the days, clarity, and try as much as possible to isolate yourself from those opinions about why didn't you read this, why didn't you revise that. Just stick with what you know and don't try any weird new things before the exam.
And one last tip that I would like to give, and maybe just wrap it up from my side, would be, most of people tend to trap that, give me that person's file or give me this person's file and their highlighted answers, and I would mark that answer in the exam. Do not fall for that. Believe and trust in your knowledge, in your concepts. ADC changes the language, ADC changes the options, ADC changes the history. Everything gets transformed. Use your own knowledge and concept base and mark accordingly. Do not fall the trap for mugged up answers. You will always struggle with that. It will take you downhill.
Yeah. And it's very tempting. It's very tempting to doubt yourself when you are
and in
choosing.
the exam, in the exam you will find the same options, but the history would have been changed, and you will be tempted to mark something different, but you will think that I have marked up that mentor's file and it had highlighted the other option. You would be tempted to mark what you have marked up. Please use your own knowledge, use your own brains. The history has been changed. In the file, the history was something else and the answer was marked as per that. Now it's time you need to apply critical thinking. So the first and the most important thing that you need to take with yourself to the exam center is the critical thinking. That's what I want to give the last plus. Don't fall for the mugged up answers. Please use your own critical thinking, brains, knowledge, concepts, whatever you may like to call it. But
perfect.
You tempted to answer the mugged up, giving justice to this patient and his history, only then mark.
Okay, perfect. So just to finalize here, I think they marked the questions. This is from Akmal as well again. I think they mark the questions against preset answers that it's unlikely they will change in their database. The ADC also started it clearly that candidates should stick to the reference list until updated. I think that will be a fair advice. The only thing, Akmal, is, well, sometimes we try to crack how they grade these things and things are preset or not. I think personally, and this is just my opinion, you shouldn't be wasting time on that. You know, when I was preparing, I wasn't thinking about the percentages and the preset database. I mean, I was focusing on the critical thinking because that's what I learned from my mentoring, and also try to stick to the knowledge rather than try to guess how trick the system and how they are grading the questions, basically. Yeah, well, if you guys don't have any other questions for Hijasa, well, before Dr. Dapesh takes on, thank you so much, Hijasa, for being with us today. It was very lovely to see you again.
Thank you, Lena. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, and we keep on talking, Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Hello, everyone. and a wonderful session. Thank you so much, Dr. Lena, Dr. Jigyasa, and Dr. Radha. She just had to leave a bit early. First of all, it rarely happens with us, so apologies for the technical difficulties. We would be posting this session on Facebook and on our platforms anyways. Thank you again. As I said, all the points are very, very valid. I think it is very important to understand that obviously you are giving an exam, and this is a very important phase in your life, but this is not the only phase in your life. What happens after exams? So approach everything as if you want to become an amazing professional. You are not an 800, 1000, 1500 question dentist. You are not a 50 scenario dentist. You are a dentist. You are a professional. So you need to be prepared to be able to handle anything. Old TG, new TG, articles, questions. It is all about knowledge. So try and do that from as many sources as possible. Follow your mentors, and just make sure that you have a very clear vision and align with the correct people, and you'll be going places. And thank you again. And please follow Dr. Jigyasa on her page as well. She has her updates, and you can contact her regarding your part 1 preparations, and you can contact us anytime, and we would be more than happy to help you out.
Yes. And before I forget, we are going to have the DA course coming up very soon, because some people have asked me about the 2-day dental assistant course, the fundamentals to get job ready. So the course is coming very, very soon, just for you guys to know. And Ravinder, please, last question. Do we need to follow all or new TG for September 2020 exam? Oh, I don't know, all TG, right, Ijasa?
Yes, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
There's no question
Yeah.
about this.
ADC hasn't said anything different than that.
Nothing.
Yeah, so
Nothing.
all TG,
Yeah.
Ravinder.
All TG.
Cool.
That's what I said. Only with TG, because obviously it has some really drastically changed concepts. But otherwise recent scientific advancements you can follow. But yes, for now, all TG only. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
And, one last thing, sorry, before we go, the next episode would be about what happens once you have cleared your part 1. So please make sure that you tune in for that as well. It's going to have a lot of valuable information in it as well. And yeah, thank you very much for your time, everyone, for tuning in.
Thank you, Dinesh, for having me. I'll be just leaving now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for watching us. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ijasa. Thank you, Dr. Depesh.
Thank you,
Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely night.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.